Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
The Rev and the Rabbi. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Tasnak.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, I have come to know Jerry Goldfeder for a number of years. To me, he is one of the best election and campaign finance experts. Many turn to him for advice. He also, I think, is the only person who understands ranked choice voting. So everything you want to know or things you didn't want to know, he'll explain them. Jerry Goldfeder is with Cozen O'Connor. He's also the director of Fordham Law School Voting Rights and Democracy Project. Jerry, welcome to the Rev and the Rabbi.
It's great to be with you again.
All right, so ranked choice voting.
Boy, you just jump right in. Okay,
because I get asked so many questions.
I said the landscape.
Let's get right to it. Don't be nervous. It's really easy. You have a ballot. You have 7 or 8 candidates, and you can vote for one of them, or you can rank them. You can say, this is my first choice, this is my second choice. In New York City, we have ranked choice voting for mayor, controller, public advocate, borough president, and all the city council people. We don't have it for other races in New York State, but we have it in New York City. So you get the ballot, and you can vote for your preferred candidate, number one, and not vote for anybody else. Or you can vote for your preferred candidate number one, and your second preferred candidate number 2, and so on, up to 5 candidates. You can vote for all 5. You can rank them 1 through 5. You can rank 1 through 4. You can just vote for one. It's really that simple. And New York City is not the only place to have ranked choice voting. They have it in Maine. They have it in California. They have it in Alaska. They have it in a whole bunch of jurisdictions around the country. And it's really very simple. People shouldn't be nervous about it at all.
Yeah, okay. So it's very simple, as you said, but here's the big question. How does ranked choice voting upset an election?
It doesn't upset an election at all. So let's think of a quote-unquote normal election where there's no ranked choice voting. You go into the polls and you vote for somebody, and whoever gets the most votes wins. Now, the most votes can be 75%. It could be 25%. In other words, whoever just gets a plurality will win. Well, that's not necessarily the best outcome. A better outcome is to make sure whoever wins is the person who gets 50% plus 1, a majority. So there are 2 ways of doing that. You either have a vote, and if nobody gets a majority, then you have a runoff. Georgia has that, Louisiana has that, New York City used to have that. So that's one way of doing it to make sure that the ultimate winner has more than 50% of the vote that's been cast. But the other way of doing it, the easier way of doing it, where you don't have 2 elections, but you just have 1 election, is through ranked choice voting. So the voter goes into the polls and ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this case, or however many or however few people you want to vote for. And if there's a candidate who gets 50% plus one we're talking about the primaries in June. If they get 50% plus one, then it's over. If they don't get 50% plus one, then the candidate who gets the least amount of votes is eliminated. And those people who have voted for that eliminated candidate, you look at those ballots and see who their second place preferred candidate was, and those votes are distributed to the people who were voted number two on those eliminated candidates' ballots. And you do that until someone gets 50% plus one. The voter doesn't have to worry about that. The computers, the machines are set so that candidates are eliminated and their votes are distributed to second place and third place preferences. All the voter needs to know is to decide who their preferred candidate is, their number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But the machinery, the election machinery, will distribute the eliminated candidates until somebody gets 50% plus one. And that's a good system because it means that the ultimate winner really has gotten a majority of the votes that have been cast. And we like that.
Is that the rationale for the system? Because we didn't have ranked choice for many years. Is to make sure we have 51?
That's exactly the rationale. See, we used to have a system where if nobody got, in New York City, it was 40%. It wasn't 50%. If nobody got 40%, then there was a second election with a runoff. So we got rid of that and we put in ranked choice. So we only have one election. And if nobody gets a majority, not 40%, but a majority, then we just distribute the votes of the losing candidates until somebody gets a majority. And that's a good thing. So as I say, we do have ranked choice voting in other states, and the same system works in the other states. And actually what it means is that people campaign differently as well. So if I'm running for mayor and I'm competing against Joe Potasnik, and we have differences, but I want people who vote for him, number one, to vote for me, number two. So when he gets eliminated, because not enough people voted for him, number one, I get his number two votes. So I'll be nice to Joe on the campaign trail, or at least I'll be nice to his supporters. And that's a better way of campaigning. And actually we're seeing that. We're seeing that in the campaigns, in the campaign for mayor already, where candidates are starting to appeal to their competitors' supporters, so that even though they might not get number one, they'll get number two or number three.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. 9.5 plus pH, now in cans.
Refreshing.
Made for every way you move.
Should I run a marathon?
Let's start with finishing that water. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant, now in a sleek can. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This episode is brought to you by Chevrolet. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Chevrolet Certified Service Fresh Start Tire event. Visit Chevrolet.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only. Highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
So does this eliminate the ability for a losing candidate to give their votes to the candidate of their choice?
Well, no, it actually.
You know what I mean? I mean, if one person it motivates people to say, okay, vote for me number one, but I like Joe. Vote for him number two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is it always possible to get 51% with ranked choice, or can you be in a situation where you don't have 51%?
No, you'll always get it because you look at the ballots, and if nobody gets 50% plus one, we have the candidate with the least amount of votes gets eliminated, and his second place votes get distributed. And if still nobody gets 50% plus one, then we eliminate the next losing candidate and the next losing candidate until we get to two candidates. If nobody gets 50% until we get to the last round when there's only two candidates left, when there are two candidates left, one of them will get a majority. One of them will get 50% plus one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say, so the redistribution, I'm thinking, 3, 4, 5 levels down. So the redistribution can end up having a number two choice become a number one and win.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. So the last time we did this in a full-scale election was in 2021. So everybody who was leading on the first ballot and on the second, and on the third, until the very end. The person who was leading in the first round, who didn't get 50% plus one, ultimately won. So the mayoral candidate, the controller, the public advocate, all the city candidates who were leading in the first round but didn't have a majority yet won, except for two candidates. One of whom, his name is Shekhar Krishnan. He's a city councilman in Queens. He was number two, and the guy who was number one didn't get 50%. So they went from the first round to the second round. There were other candidates, and their votes were distributed. And Shekhar Krishnan, who was not leading in the beginning, led at the end, overtook him, and got more second and third and fourth place votes, so that ultimately he became the winner. It only happened in two cases out of 51 council people and 5 borough presidents and 3 citywide. It's happened from time to time in Maine, a congressional candidate who was second in the first go around, and the second or third go around they won. And the same happened in Alaska a few years ago when Sarah Palin was running for Congress. So she was leading, but ultimately she lost because the second and third votes, the second and third preference votes, were distributed to someone else. So sometimes it means that the person who is leading at first, most of the time they win, but sometimes they don't. Yeah. But think about it this way. If it were just a quote-unquote normal election, the way I put it, then the person with 40%, 30%, 25% would win. Plurality. But it's much better if the person who ultimately wins has support from more than 50% of all the votes that are cast. As I say, it sounds a little complicated, but for the voter, it's really simple. Yeah. You vote your preferences, and whoever at the end of the day has more votes cast for them, whether it's number one and number two and number three, they will prevail and they will win.
Jerry, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk about a number of things. Voter apathy. which is so detrimental to our elections, but also that in New York we have a candidate who is clearly anti-Israel. I never thought we'd see that in New York City. So we're going to talk about a number of these things. We'll come back with Jerry Goldfeder.
Yeah, so stay tuned for more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
Rabbi Joseph Tasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
We're talking with Jerry Goldfeder, who is a election campaign finance lawyer at Cozen O'Connor and director of the Fordham Law School Voting Rights and Democracy Project. Jerry, let's talk about the non-voter turnout. What percentage of people don't vote generally in the elections?
Well, in New York City, we have a really pitiful situation. We have a very low turnout. It's really terrible. In 2021, I think it was 26% turnout in the election. And that's really terrible. In New York City, we actually now have a mayoral charter revision commission, and they're charged with amending the city charter. And part of what they're considering is changing the election law again to make it more open. They're thinking about having what we call open primaries. So instead of the Democrats voting for the Democratic primary, Republicans voting in the Republican primary, we'll have one primary, and everybody will vote. And the people who get the highest, the two candidates or the four candidates who get the most votes will go into the general election. Well, in other cities where they have switched from closed primaries, what we have now, to these open primaries where everybody votes, the turnout has been dramatically improved. So the Charter Revision Commission is looking at that to modernize our elections and to increase turnout and to give everybody a chance to vote in the primaries. And as I say, the top two winners or the top four winners, they're thinking about one way or the other, will go into the general election. And we have that system in other states, notably in California, where in that case, it's whoever the top two candidates in the primaries, where everybody votes, go into the general election. So the Charter Revision Commission is thinking about this, considering it, holding hearings, and they're going to put this on the ballot in November if they decide to do that. Not for this coming election, obviously, but for future elections. So they're thinking about the problem of low turnout in New York City, and they're trying to come up with a solution. I hope they do.
So it's interesting because I'm sorry, Rabbi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in reference to that, I was looking at some of the numbers from New York City Campaign Finance Board, and we in 2023 we had 81.8% voter registration. How do we understand that such a high registration and yet 12.8% voter turnout?
Well, part of it is we don't really have a robust. We don't have a culture that really encourages robust voting. I don't know why, but we don't. In presidential elections, we have a pretty good turnout, not great, but much better. But for local elections and state elections, we really don't. And part of it has to do with the fact that we don't have that kind of a culture. And part of it has to do with the candidates who seem not to be really mobilizing voters to come out and support them. I'll tell you something. You know, there are places where voting is required. Australia, for example, it's mandatory voting. And I wish people would think about that. Now, on some level, you say to yourself, what do you mean mandatory? Nobody's going to tell me to vote. But what they do in Australia is you have to vote. And if you don't, there's a $100 fine, and then you can't renew your driver's license. And there is obviously an extremely high turnout in the high 90s percentage of people who vote. And from what I understand from people I've spoke to, it's anecdotal, but people I've spoke to from Australia, for them it's quite natural and they love it. Yeah. People come out and vote. So it does seem that it's anti-American in some way. We have the right to be left alone. We have the right to not be bothered and so on. But that might, if we had that kind of a system, it really might change who gets elected, and maybe we would get public officials who are much more responsive to their constituents and responsible. I would hope that some jurisdiction, some city would do a pilot program where they initiated that, and I think we would see tremendous turnout, obviously. And it could really change the kinds of people we elect.
Yeah.
How's that for an idea on a Sunday morning?
That is good. But I got to tell you, from a religious perspective, I can look through our different traditions. Rev, I want your thinking. I think there's a responsibility to vote. We have a statement in Jewish tradition, the law of the land is the law which you must follow. You pay taxes here. If you're asked to serve in the armed forces, you got to go. Jury, do all those things. Voting is a responsibility. Jerry, there are just 2 minutes left. I got to ask you, we have the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. I never thought that we'd have a candidate who openly is anti-Israel and who is, enjoys popularity in certain groups. He's not a pariah. I didn't think I'd see it, and I don't fully understand it. But to me, it's not a proud moment that we can have such a candidate.
And let me just point out, because our program is national, and we have listeners across the country. Rabbi, you're speaking specifically with New York City politics as a mayoral candidate, correct?
Well, and also what happens in New York is well known in other parts of the country. Mm-hmm. Jerry, any thoughts on Zoran Mondani?
Well, I have very strong feelings about the mayoral race, but full disclosure, I represent Scott Stringer, who's running for mayor, and frankly, I don't really want to get into the personalities of the candidates because it just wouldn't be fair for me to do so, given the fact that I represent and support Scott Stringer. There are many people I know who share your feelings, and I have pretty strong feelings about it as well. But I think I want to leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not representing anyone, so I can say it. And I just think that we could do better in New York than have someone who takes that particular stance. Jerry Goldfeder.
Well, let's see how the election turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
By the way, Rev, let me make full disclosure. For a number of years, I served on the New York City Campaign Finance Board, and I would look forward to Jerry Goldfeder coming in, representing a certain candidate, and his presentations. As you can hear, he's very articulate. He knows the law. He knows how to argue. And really, Jerry, you have mastered this area of the law, and it's to your credit, and people are very fortunate to be the beneficiaries of your expertise.
Well, I appreciate your very kind remarks. And then I have to ask you, why did you always vote against me when you were on the board?
There had to be.
Good one.
Yeah, no. Actually, there were times I did, but you. No,
I know. I'm only kibitzing with you.
No. We all did what we thought was right, but it was a wonderful experience for me to be on that board and to meet people like you who are so proficient in this area. We need people who understand the law and how to represent a candidate. So thank you.
Well, thank you again. And Reverend and Rabbi, it's always great to be with you.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the program. So once again, we hope that this was enlightening as well as inspiring. Join us again next time right here on Red Apple Radio Network for another episode of The Rev
and the Rabbi.